What's up, beautiful people? This is Fearfully Fit Podcast, and my goal for you is to develop a healthy mind, body, and spirit. I'm going to be sharing with you an in-depth look into how I lost over 100 pounds and had a total life transformation. I want you to be fit in all aspects of your life because you are fearfully and wonderfully made. What's up, beautiful people, and welcome to another episode of Fearfully Fit Podcast. As always, thank you for tuning in. So today, my guests are my two good girlfriends. We have Leela. Say what's up.
Hi, this is Leela.
And Christina.
Hi, guys.
Thank you guys for joining me. So I start off the episodes when I have guests with the Would You Rather question to kind of get us comfortable, okay?
Okay. Sounds good.
So would you rather give up all drinks except for water, or give up eating anything that was cooked in an oven?
That's hard.
Wow. I was not expecting that. This is difficult. So, probably the drinks. Because I feel like the drinks might be more realistic. Well, yes, because like limiting your food that you can bake, I think that's kind of ridiculous, because think of the amount of foods that we bake. We bake cakes, we bake chicken, we bake so many things. I think that's kind of like ridiculous. And then
so you would give up your wine?
So Christina, you give up wine?
Hey! I kind of plan to give that up eventually, so I feel like
when? If not now, when?
I feel like that might not be so far-fetched, to be honest. And then,
so
I can
give up
water.
all the drinks out besides water. Okay, what would you do, Lee?
I would just stick to water, honestly. Because I do like everything that's baked. Like, you could bake salmon, you could bake chicken, you could bake cakes, you could bake a lot. So I'll just stick to water.
Right.
Alcohol is sometimes overrated, but I'll stick to water.
Sure.
Right. I'm surprised you're saying that, Christina, but okay. I would stick to the water too. You know I love water, so it's not going to bother me. All right, so let's get into it. The topic that we're going to have today is loveless soul ties. So this episode is about helping us have relational health. So I think that a lot of people deal with soul ties and don't even know that they're in a soul tie, or they're in a soul tie and it's just like, how do I get out of it? Because it's just not something that you wake up and it's just like, I'm ready to move on. A lot of us are connected to these people and we don't understand why, and we don't know how to get out of it. So I think it'll be really good for us to share our experiences, because we've all had bad soul ties, and there are bad soul ties and good soul ties, which I'll let you guys hear a verse from the Bible that speaks about good soul ties. So you can have good soul ties, but for the sake of this conversation, we're going to talk about the bad ones. Okay. So I'll start off and I'll say a bad soul tie that I was in. It was about 2 years ago now going on that I started putting in the work to cut it off. Okay. So I'll say it's been about 2 years now. So I was in the soul tie for like a good 2.5, hitting 3 years, right? And I knew it was a soul tie once. In the natural sense, everything is saying that it's time to leave this situation. But for whatever reason, you're not able to leave. You're not moving on from it. And so I think that's the easiest indicator to see, like, is this a soul tie? What is keeping me attached to this person? Because in the natural, nothing makes sense. Right. You know what I mean? And so I'll say in the beginning, and what's crazy, do you remember and we're going to not say names, just in case the persons that we're all talking about are listening, so we won't say names. But do you remember when I first was talking to the person and I said, I feel like God wants me to be his friend?
Absolutely. And what did I say? And I said, Summer, this is an assignment. I was like, do not play with the assignment. And he was like, and I was like,
right. And what did I do? I played around with it
for a long time.
Right. So that was the first mistake, being convicted about going into making this relationship something that it wasn't supposed to be. Because I knew that me and this person were supposed to have something, but it wasn't supposed to be sexual.
Right.
It was not supposed to be sexual, but I do know that I was supposed to have something with this person. I agree. And so that was also hard because I messed up the type of relationship it should have been. So then because I knew something was supposed to be there, so that's made it even harder to leave it, because I'm like, but then why do I feel that way? It's because it was supposed to be something, just not what I made it. Okay. Right? So that was mistake number 1. Then mistake number 2, being sexual, having sex outside of marriage. When in the first podcast, when I had Carl on as a guest, I talked about how sex is one of the loudest components of a relationship. It makes it so hard for you to hear anything else. Like, forget hearing from God. It just makes everything cloudy. Like, you're not making rash decisions. And don't let the sex be good.
Right, baby.
Don't let the sex be good.
That's when you're absolutely in trouble.
Exactly. Nothing makes sense. When the sex is good, please.
It clouds a lot of judgment. It really does.
100% does.
You just overlook everything. The red signs, everything, because the sex be bomb. I mean, sex be bomb.
Yeah. Yes. And so that was mistake number 2, making this and having sexual relations. And so definitely 100% the person did not care for me as I cared for them. And it was very apparent in the amount of time that he was willing to spend with me. It was very apparent in
when you guys linked up.
Yeah, like the certain times he would want. You talking about certain times he would want to spend with me?
Yeah, like it was never like daylight. You know, like I'm not trying to.
Well, you know what? It just wasn't frequent. Like it wasn't like, let's go on this brunch date. Let's go to the park. Right. It was primarily at night, which you know, booty calls. Which this situation was more than a booty call, but you could tell he wasn't as invested.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it went against all of my standards. So you also know that that's a red flag when everything is going against your standards. Like, go down the list when you are starting to overlook the situation, like it doesn't meet your standards, like before you met the person.
Not overlook your, I would say belittle your standards. Not belittle your standards, but like, I can't find a word right now.
Yeah, belittle your expectations. Mm-hmm. When you went into it with a certain expectation, it was like, yo, I can't get into. When you start doing the stuff that you said you would never do, mm-hmm. that's when you know that's another red flag of you need to get out the situation, right? And so that was also something. All of my expectations, all of my standards that I had for relationships, I totally just disregarded them. You keep making excuses of why it's not what you want it to be, why they're not measuring up. And so the soul tie, I knew it was definite, like I said, because when it was time for me to go, and I knew 100% God was telling me, this is not for you. It's not going to happen. This is not what I have for you. And I still stayed in it anyway. And I think about when you think 2.5, 3 years.
So much time.
Of a loveless soul tie. Yes. That's crazy. Think of all that. Think of what God could have been doing with me during that time. I could have met Carl so much earlier.
Seriously and actually.
Yep. Yes.
Absolutely.
I could have met him. And who knows, I don't particularly believe that everything happens for a reason. I think that God, there are certain things that, a certain path that you can take, and this is going to happen. And then there's a certain path that you can take, and the other thing is going to happen. I don't think because I don't think God intends for anyone to be like, I need you to sin. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, I need you to be in a loveless soul tie for years.
True.
Why would God need me to go through that? That you can reach people without necessarily having to experience everything. Everything is not meant to me to be
and no
to be experienced.
He might need you to go through certain things, just like he will bring you down mm-hmm. in order to show you something, in order for you to get back on the right track that you're supposed to be on in the first place. So perhaps he would let you go down.
Yeah, but you need to. I'm not trying to be too deep or nothing like that. Like with that one,
you get as deep as you want.
But with that, with that in particular individual, mm-hmm. After you guys went through what you guys went through, you did take a break and you grew a lot. Like mm-hmm, you probably don't notice it, but probably because I have front row seats, but you definitely grew a lot. You grew a lot spiritually. Can I talk? Thanks. You grew a lot spiritually and
this is, if they have little snide remarks, it's just their relationship. They're not really about to start fight.
Right.
So.
But you grew a lot. I feel like after that experience, you were just like, you know what? Like you did a lot. Spiritually, you grew a lot. I feel like you was just like, you know what, this is enough, and X, Y, and Z. And you did some really deep
reflection.
Yeah, you did.
Yep.
And that's why I think you met Carl. Because Carl, it's so crazy, but that's a whole different episode. But yeah, you did a lot. You did a lot of digging.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it's hard.
And also, if you don't do that digging, I feel like when the right person does come around, you're not ready to receive them in the way that you should.
Exactly.
So this is very key.
Yes, Christy, preaching. Wow, look at the preacher. Okay, minister. So I agree. Yes, that there are some things that God will allow you to go through.
Yeah, and probably you have to go through that experience so you could get back aligned with God, because you did drift you did drift away, right? Like when you was with him, you did drift away. You was in ministry, you was still ministering, but it wasn't as
well. I wasn't not a preacher, but I still was.
I'm talking about like in the church,
actively
crazy. I was actively involved.
Actively involved, but it wasn't like you wasn't like invested. Like you would do it just because you had to do it. But it wasn't like now. Like now it's like, right.
Because if it was a Friday night youth service and it was a matter of going to youth service or going to see him, facts. Because y'all don't know when it's coming again.
Exactly.
So I was like, let me just,
But we thank God you over that child.
I can shout.
Awesome.
I can shout. So, and then when I finally, I believe I mentioned in the first podcast episode, God had told me, he said, I have something so much better for you, but you have to leave that situation and have nothing else in place but me. And, a lot of, especially females, what we tend to do when we will be like, okay, God, I'll get rid of that. But first, we try to put somebody in place to make the process a little bit more easier. What's that saying? It's kind of raunchy. And it's like when the best way to get over someone is to get under someone new.
Right.
Which a lot of people, we do that, but all that does is just add another spirit that you got to try to fight against. And so it was scary letting go of that situation with nothing else in place. Because remember, y'all, having almost 3 years invested in something, to just let that go, not knowing if God, because it wasn't even that he was treating me so well that it's like I'm gonna miss that, but it was just more of even just the attention.
Right.
The attention in itself had just a pull on me to it. So I'm like, Dag, I'm not gonna get that attention no more. I'm not gonna have, that familiarity anymore that I've been having for almost 3 years. But it was needed. It was hard. So that's number one. When you're trying to detach yourself from a soul tie, it's not about to, especially when you have years that this soul tie has been created and that you've put energy into it. It's not something that you're just going to wake up and all of a sudden you don't got to put in no work to detach yourself from it. It's going to be hard. You might have to block the person. You're going to have to be seeking God on a whole new level. Like it's not something to play around with that you think that, when people say you don't have to do all that, it's going to take a lot. There's a lot you're going to have to do to have to get over that situation.
Yeah, but can we talk about seeking God again?
The seeking God aspect of a soul tie?
Yes.
Of breaking the soul tie?
Yes. This is extremely exhausting.
It's exhausting, the seeking God part?
Yes. Everything.
Well, what's a soul tie that... You tell me your experience with your soul tie.
Let me see.
With your bad soul tie.
Okay, my bad soul tie. He was... the thing is, it's funny, and like, now I can laugh about it because it wasn't even all that, but...
What wasn't all that?
Sex. But because the tension was there and like he would tell me things I want to hear,
and you also had that. I remember you telling me that you guys, you had a lot to relate. So he was able to relate to you on a certain level other people couldn't.
I would say that me and his mom could relate because I was in a foster care system and she at the time was a foster mother.
Yeah.
So I guess me going over there would make me feel some type of acceptance, if that makes sense. And at the same time, I'm dating her son.
Right.
even though he would say certain things and I would like overlook it. I'm like, yeah, you know, he's just saying it, but it did mess with my self-esteem issues.
What certain things?
He would definitely dismiss a lot of things that I said, like, in conversation. So we'd have a conversation about, you know, certain things I would be going through, and he would just act like he didn't hear it, or he would just be very dismissive. And he used to do a lot of comparing me to other girls, and I overlooked that because I guess, you know, soul tie. Yeah, so this soul tie lasted, I would say, 3 years. Now that I'm really thinking about it, that soul tie was so exhausting. It had gotten to the point I would have to like call Jenny, and she would have to.
I know who Jenny is, but who is Jenny to you?
Jenny's like mom, spiritual mom, sister, mentor, like all of that. So it had gotten to the point I would call her and she would like talk to me through, and it was just a lot. Like now that I'm really seriously sitting down thinking about it, it was extremely exhausted and deep. It lasted, like I said, for like 3.5 years. And even though the crazy thing is that even though I was dating somebody else, I was still connected to him, which is so crazy to him, which is so crazy to me.
Yeah, because
back to what you were saying, right? Back to what you were saying when you was like, you know, there's this whole, I think it's a motto, like, you know, if you to get with somebody, you got to talk to somebody new. That did not work. It did not work.
We're playing ourselves if we think that's an easy way to get over somebody.
Right. So the way I got over it, I think I finally got over it. I know it sucks, but I finally got over it when I got into the second relationship I was in after him. And then when me and this dude, the second relationship, when we broke off, like I took a break from dating and like really found myself. Even though I'm back in the dream, finding myself again. But that's what I had to do, and like really seek God and like pray and have people pray for me. Jenny was really by my side throughout that whole thing because it was hard. It was really hard.
Now, outside of you praying, what were you praying for?
I just wanted to get over him. I wanted to get over him.
Your prayer, like,
yes, to get over him. Yes, to get over him. Not to go on his page. That's another thing too. I would go on his page to see who he was dating. It was crazy. Like I would still keep in contact with his family. I would still reach out to him and see how he was doing. Like, people be thinking soul ties is just, like, sexual. No. Like, I feel like at one point I was obsessed. Like, it was just, wow. Like, I would go on the girl's page he was dating to see what was it about her. Yeah, so.
That, like, why he
chose her and not me. And then it still didn't make sense to me. I was just like, that's crazy. Like, we're nothing alike. Like, was I this? Was I that? So, during this whole soul tie thing, like, then you start questioning yourself, like, am I not good enough? And that's not good. That's when I was like, all right, this is not worth it, because I know myself. Well, now I know my self-worth. By the time I didn't know, so I was questioning myself, like, am I not good enough? Am I not busty enough? Am I not this and that? My personality, this, that. And it was hard. It was exhausting. So soul ties, guys, is not only sexually. It doesn't. Yes. It's not only that.
You can create soul ties just through intimate conversations.
Yes.
When you're like sharing stuff with the person, the time spent with the person.
Yeah. And we spent a lot of time too. I think that's another thing too. We used to spend a lot of time. Like, I used to go to his house after school. On the weekends, I used to be there all day. When I had days off from school, I used to be there. So yeah, time spent.
I think more than anything, well, you know what? There's two aspects that really bother me. And then, Christina, I want you to go into your experience with having a bad soul tie. But two things that really bother me the most of when I think about that particular soul tie, or you know what, soul ties and bad soul ties I've had in general, is what I could have been doing instead.
Right.
Like what my life, because you spend so much time like obsessing over the person,
wasted time,
crying at the person, spending so much time at the altar asking for forgiveness, asking to get over the person, that it's like, dang, girl. Like God ain't got no time or no room to do nothing else because you too busy asking for forgiveness, asking God to set you free. Like I'm so curious.
No, but hold on, what about when you get you be like, you know, I got this, right? Like one weekend, I got this. Right after church, you right back at his house.
Feeling so strong in the moment. As soon as they hit you up.
I'm telling you, I'm talking about after a good word, you know, shouting, cry, all that. and then he hits you up, and you're like, let me just see him, and you back to square one. Like, it is exhausting. So
and just going back to what I was talking about of that it takes a lot. You don't play yourself to think that you're so strong. And what I mean by that is when you've been in a soul tie for years, don't think that you about to go to one church service and you about to get a little bit encouragement and then you can go hang out with the person and be like, no, we just friends. No, you're not.
It's a process.
Exactly.
It's a
You're
process.
not. You have to cut all ties with that person.
It's a process.
You done spent all these years obsessing over that person. You think one little church service is about to change all that? No, you have to put in some work. You got to do what you do. Got to go way above and beyond. You got to do more work to get out of it than what you did to get into it.
Absolutely.
It takes 2 seconds to get into it. It takes years to get out of it.
Well said.
Yes. So, Christina, what was your experience with a bad soul tie?
Well, I think my soul tie, it was a really long soul tie. I think it lasted about 4 years. And I think it's very important to highlight that it's not purely sexual, because the sex wasn't that, outstanding where I would say that was the reason purely for the soul tie. I think it was so much more than that. It's so mental and so emotional, and you just feel like you need the person in your life, and you just, I don't know. But yes, this particular soul tie, I met this person, as I said, and then I don't know, it was like I felt an instant connection with them. So I think that kind of helped to kind of propel it to what it became. I felt, because I hadn't really felt that, with anyone, and so like I don't know if I ever did, maybe once before, but then I was like, oh my god, this is it, like, right, he's the one,
for real.
It felt so real. I'm like, he's the one. And that kind of pushed it to the next level. And then also him, he was kind of like a romantic, and he would like kind of like swoon me, like he swept me off my feet basically. And he was like so like convincing in the words he used, and he was just like, yeah, like feeding me these lies basically that I fell for. And so that kind of morphed into more. And then I don't know, I remember like being so like trying to make the relationship more than it was. And I thought that, I guess, I was his girlfriend, but apparently I wasn't. And it was crazy. And I remember one night asking him, we were in the car, and I was just like outside of his house, and I was like, hey, like, do you have a girlfriend? Because I don't know. I didn't know how to say it, like, and I was expecting it to be me. And then he was like, yeah, like, and I was like, well, I'm your girlfriend, and whatever. And I don't know. It was like kind of like something ambiguous like that, where it wasn't like really clear that it was me, but I made myself believe that it was me. So like fast forwarding, we would go out in the mall, we would be holding hands. We'd be holding hands, and I would think, oh my god, I'm definitely his girlfriend. Like, he's holding my hand in public, and it's like near his house. It's not like it's like miles and miles away. You know what I mean? Like, who would do that?
Right.
Surely he's with me because I'm holding his hand in public.
Right.
So my mind just kind of like tricks me.
What you want to see.
Absolutely. Right. Absolutely. And this was exactly the case. And it didn't really, I would be talking to him, and he'd be like, what do you want from me? Like, what do you want me to give you? And I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. And then one night I asked him like flat out, I was like, are you having sex with other people? Like, what's going on? And he flat out told me, like, from time to time, yeah, I have sex with, friends from time to time. Like, I'm like, what? I was totally blindsided. I did not expect him to say that. I mean, I had suspected like maybe there was something going on because he was so like dismissive after a while. But I mean, I was not prepared for that. When he said that, my whole world like fell apart. I instantly fell apart. I begged him not to leave. He was like, this is not going to work. I'm like, oh my God, please don't leave.
And what's so crazy?
It was so crazy.
Christina is naturally a very dominant personality. She's extremely driven and successful, and from face value, you would never think that she would allow herself to be in a situation where she would give a a boy, and I'm gonna say boy because at the time, I'm not gonna say what he is now, but at the time he was a boy, he was not a man.
Definitely.
Give a boy that much power over her, especially when it's not like he was giving her something to hold on to.
Right.
So that's how you know soul ties is just, it will turn you into everything that you're not.
Right. Absolutely. And it was so crazy because even after we had broken it off and after all the revelations that I had and like kind of seeing, you know, what it was, I still wanted to be with him. It was crazy. Like he could still call me and be like, oh, you know, say something, some kind remarks or something, you know, slick. And I would still be right there, like hanging out with him, even when it was supposed to be all said and done. And then, you know, I saw him, you know, with a girl, you know, on social media. Social media is the enemy when you're trying to get over stuff like this. You need to stay off that altogether because it does not do you any good. But
and especially, I'm so happy. Well, I'm not in a situation now that I would care to use it. But back when Instagram had that, you can see what other people, what your followers are liking. Oh, I used to be in that thing all day long, seeing who he was liking the pictures of,
obsessed,
clicking on the pictures, looking at the comments,
screenshots, like
yes. Oh man, them days.
Such an obsession.
God is so good. Thank you for deliverance. Talk about exhausting.
But I blocked him. You know, I had to block him because I could not see a message and not answer. You know, I couldn't. So I definitely had to take those extreme measures. I had to just keep him out of sight, you know, at all costs, because that wasn't it. I can't even, looking back at it now, it was like so clear. You know, all the signs were there. You know, he practically told me, basically, like in my face, and I still couldn't get over it. It took so long, and like it took so many like situationships after him for me to finally like really move forward. I had so many like just meaningless like situations. I wouldn't even call them relationships after that. And you know, it just took so long, and it was really an exhausting process. So I wouldn't wish that for anyone. But I also think that I don't know. People just have to be very, like, you have to know who you are. You have to be very conscious of who you are and, like, really kind of stand firm in who you are. And you have to try to stay true to yourself.
Right. Don't lower that for nobody.
Don't lower your standards for anyone, because honestly, it's not worth it. Especially someone who doesn't care about you and doesn't really value you. You know what I mean? And even after he tried to come back, and it was just like, I still had a little, like, I wonder, you know, what it could be. You know what I mean?
Factor.
Yeah, right. That's how strong the tie was. It's just like, it was crazy.
Right, like after everything you've been through, you still even consider
absolutely it. And it makes you think kind of like what's broken in you. You know what I mean? That you would allow yourself to go through that for so long at that. It's not like this was 4 months. This was like 4 years. You know? So it makes you reevaluate that and just really do a lot of self-reflection, you know? And it does cause you to grow. It's like at a cost, but you do grow from that. So
the key is to not repeat these things. Now, unfortunately, I've had a couple of soul ties. I didn't allow the first, because the one that I was just talking about, that one I'll say was my third bad soul tie. Well, you know what? I've had a bad soul tie in a friend as well, and I think that's also something to talk about, because a lot of times a bad soul tie in a friend can mess you up just as much, because it's a certain expectation, because you kind of in the back, even though you want so much out of the man, you kind of in the back of your mind have that feeling like, okay, this could potentially not work out. Right. But when it's a friend and you have a high expectation for a friend, you just don't think that it's going to turn into something bad. Right. You know what I mean? So I think that type of blow, it hurts just as bad, if not more sometimes, than from when you have a partner like your man. Right. And the bad friend soul tie, the bad soul tie from a friend that I had, God was definitely telling me to distance myself. But at the time, I was I hate it now, but even more so then, I hated awkward moments. So I kept putting it off, and I was just like, maybe if I just don't talk to you as much,
right,
or just don't hang out with you as much, it's going to be fine.
That never works.
It doesn't, and I just let it drag, and then finally, when we did for real separate, it affected me more than I thought that it would. And it was just so much, because I wasn't obedient the first time around, that God was like, listen, I need you to remove yourself from the situation. It ended up hurting 10 times worse.
Absolutely.
When I was forced to move out the situation. So it's literally never worth it. And that's why also I mentioned in the I did another podcast about mental health, and me and the guests were talking about journaling, and I said it's such a good tool to journal, because it helps you to remember. It helps you to remember, because a lot of times we forget, and that's how we end up doing a lot of the same mistakes. True. Because we forget the feeling that we had in those other situations. You forget what you've been through, and you would think like it was such a bad situation. How could I forget? But that's how a lot of times we end up repeating situations, because we think, oh, we can handle it. It's not going to be as bad. I can sleep with him. I can sleep around, and I'm not going to care. No, you have to remind yourself what you've been through before.
But honestly, I think we also want to forget, because I know personally for me, I block a lot of those bad memories out, not even consciously. And then I'm like, oh wow, I don't even remember that. And I think back, I'm like, oh my God, that was so crazy, when I actually really sit down and think about it. So I think it's really important, as you said, to be mindful of those past mistakes, so that you can help yourself to stay on the right path, honestly. So.
I 100% agree. And I would not have been able to, I had to have God. This personally, there's no way I could have broken these soul ties unscathed. True. I think that God has done such a huge work in me, that he's reconfigured so many things, that it doesn't even seem like I've been through what I've been through emotionally. Right. And 100% I couldn't do that without God. And it's more than just acknowledging God and just okay, get me out of this. I'm going to speak for me, and just don't revisit that relationship again. This is, quality time spent with God and nourishing that relationship like never before. Right. It wasn't like God delivered me, and then once I'm out of it, I don't go to God again. It was keeping that relationship with God. Right. Because even if my natural self, if I forget what I've been through and I start to repeat those same mistakes, my Holy Ghost reminds me. That's when that conviction come in, and it's like, nah, we not doing that again. We not repeating them same mistakes. So, Lee, you wanted to say something?
I just want to go into scripture. I was looking at.
Go ahead, go into the scripture. What were you looking at?
I was looking at Isaiah 41:10, and it says, "Fear thou not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I am thy God. I will strengthen thee. I will help thee. Yeah, I will uphold thee with the right hand of my righteousness." So I just guess that's the nugget. When you're feeling discouraged, whoever's going through, I don't know whoever's listening to this podcast and you're going through a soul tie, just look over Isaiah 41:10 and be encouraged.
Thank you. Wow.
Yes, a great encouragement. And there was, because I told you guys that there was, I think I said it in the beginning, that there is good soul ties as well, right?
Yes.
There are God ordained soul ties.
That got me.
What, good soul ties?
Yes, because honestly, I wouldn't have thought that there would be good soul ties.
Yeah, I didn't think that until you was like, Lila, you did have one. I was like, did I?
So that's wow.
I did, because of him. I'm not gonna say his name, but he got a little bit of credit because of him. He definitely has set the bar high.
One of your past relationships?
Yes, one of my past relationships. He definitely has set the bar high. When it comes to me dating, because he set the bar so high. Certain things, I'll entertain somebody for a hot second if I'm bored. Everybody does that, especially in the summertime.
But now you already know,
right, because of him, I already know. I think I know my love language, but I know what I want. I know what I want. I know what a man is supposed to give me, if that makes sense.
You know what it could be.
Exactly. Yeah, and I know what it's like. I know what it's like to be treated right. I know what it's like to be treated first.
Which is important.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And you and him didn't even work out, but it was still necessary for you at that time.
Yes, we didn't work out. And it was you always say it's premature, but we didn't work out, and yeah, we didn't work out, but I do feel like that was something that I'm not. Okay, I don't want to sound so cliche, but I do feel like that was something that God wanted me to experience, so He could prepare me, if that makes sense. So He could,
one you're supposed
right.
to
So He could. I think being that with my background and everything, where like I'm not gonna say I had. Is it that? Probably. Well, Dad was there, but Dad really wasn't there. But I didn't have daddy issues, but Dad wasn't there. You know, I really didn't have.
You don't think you had?
No, I don't think I had daddy issues.
Right.
I didn't think I have daddy. I don't think I have daddy issues. But so I do believe that God had put him in my life for a certain season, and He exposed me, and He let me see what it felt like to be treated right. He let me, you know, I knew how it feels like when somebody's actually listening to you, and like listening to like the little things that you like.
Which the one before him,
right before him, I didn't even know what that was.
Completely opposite.
Right. It was left. Like I didn't even know what that was. Like I think one time we went. Oh, so funny. One time we went on a date. Like
which one? This is the bad soul tie, or
this is the good soul tie? And he opened the car door. I was like, what? And it's so funny, right? Because it's like it's supposed to be natural. He was like, yeah, and I was just like, bro, like we just going.
And it's something so little. And look, getting hyped over something so.
I was just like, bro, we going to the ice cream parlor. Like, who cares? He's like, nah.
Exactly.
Like, I would just, you know what I mean? So. Yeah, and I remember one time in a conversation, like I remember one time I was like, you know, I like I always wanted to get flowers just because it was Wednesday, and it was mad cute. He sent me flowers one time, so it's just like little stuff like that. Yeah. So yeah, good soul ties, and there is good soul ties in friendships and girlfriends as well as girlfriends and stuff like that. So yes, good point.
In the Bible, so this is a story about King David and Jonathan, and it's from 1 Samuel 18:1, and I'm going to read it right quick. It says, "And it came to pass when he had made an end of speaking unto Saul, that the soul of Jonathan was knit with the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own soul." So you can have, you know, good soul ties as well, and you'll know. It's just, are they uplifting you? I'm not saying that you'll never ever go through trials or situations, but you'll be able to get through them, and you're going to come out a better person because of it, you know? So it's not saying that you'll never go through anything, but you'll come out as a better person after the situation. You know, you can trust them to pray for you. You can trust them to, you know, one thing Leela has said that she had told me, it was really powerful when we were I was going through a season of just being really just solely into God, and she kind of wasn't. So she was like, she said, I know that you're growing with God. She was like, if you told me like I can't be your friend, she said, I would understand. She said, I would. Right. She said, I can't hold you back spiritually. And I was awesome. Like, wow, she really loves me. That's crazy. Because it's not like she just dripping with good friends. So I want to say that now. If she let go of me, it wouldn't be like she would just be dripping with, you know, she just got good friends everywhere. I'm just saying. So for her to say that, I know it was.
You know what it's standing for. You know what this is.
Right. You know what it's standing for. So I know, I was like, wow, she really loves me. So I know that, you know, it's definitely something.
Oh, yeah, I did say that.
You know? But when you were saying how, like, God gave you the good soul tie for a reason, like, you know how to be treated. I think all the time, I'm like, what would I do if Carl and I didn't work out? What would I do?
Right.
I can't have anything before it was a joke.
Right.
I said, Summer, how would you survive? And I'm not bigging him up just because I'm innocent. I'm so serious. How in God's name did I deal with what I was dealing with?
Right. You even act different.
It was trash.
Not act different around him, but like it's funny because like when Carl's around, like you could tell. Like
yeah, I'm just so it's so crazy.
Right.
It is like night and day. I can't even imagine my bar. If Carl and I didn't work out, my bar would be so high. I'll probably stay single.
It's true.
I'll probably say because there's nothing can hit that. Right?
Yes.
Shout out to Carl. It's literally like everything I prayed for and more. He exceeds my expectations. Because you know when you get out of something bad and it's kind of just like you'll take the bare minimum. You're kind of like just don't cheat on me. You know, so we just get to the point where like just don't cheat on me or just don't let me find out. At least try to hide it. Yeah. But he has exceeded my expectations. This was a really good conversation. Thank you, ladies, for joining me. I appreciate it. And just one thing I want to end off with saying is, while the spiritual aspect of relational health is very, very important and crucial, there's also the other side of the natural things that you can be doing to grow naturally, which is therapy. I personally do not take therapy. I would love to do it. I have not found a person to invest as far as like paying for a therapist, but I am not against it. I 100% believe that God has blessed people with that knowledge for a reason. And I don't think that you need to have any type of stigma or, negative connotation attached to it. Therapy is an amazing tool. And I think that you need both when you are going through certain situations.
Amen.
Yes. Your happiness is worth it. Do not think that you are doing too much. Don't be embarrassed. And first of all, you don't have to tell everybody your business. So it's not that, you don't have to
make an announcement.
Right. Make an announcement, put on social media, on my way to a therapist. You don't have to do it.
Can we not make the announcement? Can we just pop up?
Right. Can we heal in private?
Right. Exactly. Like, I want to be on the gram and be like, yo, look at the glow up. And you could be like, yes. Can we just do that?
Yes. You do not have to announce it. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I don't know if it's a thing, but Sherelle, it's so funny because she was just like, why don't you do this?
Who is Sherelle?
Sherelle is...
I know Sherelle, but the people don't know Sherelle.
Sherelle is... I would say Sherelle is my walking Bible. Now, but Cheryl's like my cousin. She's like a walking Bible.
Cousin. That was a random comparison.
It is, but Cheryl's family. Cheryl's family.
Yeah.
So Cheryl said, what did Cheryl say? Cheryl said, you know what? Why don't you really take 3 to 6 months? I'm currently doing that right now. Just take 3 to 6 months and like really just really invest in yourself. And I promise you, it's actually the hardest thing to do. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's the hardest thing to do because it's all about you. Yeah. Like, you're learning you again. And I am in therapy.
Yes. Okay.
Awesome. Yes. Go ahead. I've been going. I was like, this is like our second session. I think by the third session, I'll know whether or not I like her or not. Because I know what I want in therapy. I don't want somebody just to be sitting down and jotting notes. I want you to interact and stuff like that. Right. So I just say all this to say, when you first of all, I want you guys to know that the soul tie, like we said earlier in the conversation in the episode, it's not a 1 day thing, it's not a 2 day thing, it's not a 3 week thing, it's not a 1 month thing. It takes time. So it's progress, it's time and time. And nobody's not saying that you're going to get over it in 3 months. I'm not saying that. But however, I am saying that give yourself time to heal and actually give yourself time, if that makes sense. So give yourself time. That's all I would say. Just be encouraged and give yourself time. And reach out to your leaders. I don't know if you're in church, but reach out to somebody that that's very positive and that'll uplift you. And just be encouraged and don't be afraid to reach out for help. I know online they have, I think if you go online, they have like hotlines where people will talk to you. Utilize them.
Right, they got the online therapy now. Make it super convenient.
Right. You don't have to leave your house.
Yes. Right. So use all the tools and stuff like that, and scripture. I know scripture is better said than done, but scripture is key.
And I think what Leela said is, very important about, taking that time out for yourself and to know yourself,
Getting to know yourself.
Absolutely. But I think it's also important to focus on not even getting to that point. Ideally, you wouldn't want to get into a bad soul tie. Right. Because it's just so detrimental to your health and just, emotional, like your spiritual
weight gain.
It's just not a good situation to be in. So if you can just like kind of zone in and know yourself before you even get into a relationship or whatever, I think that's the most important thing that anyone can do. And just like thinking about it now, like I wish I would have taken the time to really kind of understand what was important for me and what personally I wasn't willing to settle for. I think that would have made a huge difference. So if you could possibly take the time out to just really learn yourself and to know your worth and to understand what that means.
Yes.
I think that's important.
The gym during that period of time, God knew what he was doing with putting a love for health during that period, in me, because it really got me through.
Right.
just taking the, you know, me being in school was a huge help, and just trying to grow in my career, all that contributed to me just being so busy working on myself. You know, you don't have to stay so focused on the negative. That doesn't completely make it go away, but it helps. It is one thing that helps.
One day at a time.
Yes, one day at a time. A good way to know that the soul tie is broke, that the bad soul tie is broken, is when you can see that person and there's nothing. Right. There's nothing there that you can talk about it with, you know, in a sense of, this is what I've been through and I've grown from it. Or, you know, you can see the person, your heart is not jumping, your stomach don't drop, you know, and even to this day, while I believe, you know what? I still think I'm in the process. I know I'm in the process of breaking that soul tie. I am not at all, not even a little bit tempted to revisit that situation. But just as far as old negative feelings that pop up, because like Christina had said briefly, that you start questioning yourself, I can still kind of feel remnants of low self-esteem issues that I was dealing with in that moment. I still deal with those, and I know a lot of it came from feeling like I'm not good enough, like why can't he love me the way I love him? And I know that still goes in there. And we actually ended on great terms, like nothing crazy unless it's something I don't know, but we actually ended on great terms. And but I haven't seen him since. I have not seen him since. And actually, we were supposed to hang out. I don't know if I told y'all, we were supposed to hang out. Like, he had called me one day to hang out, whatever. And Carl said it got to be, because he said, I know it ended as friends. Right. So as long as it's something like respectable hours, he was like, okay. He said, but don't make it into no thing. He said, I can't tell you to not be friends, but don't make it into a thing.
Carl!
Right? I was like,
okay.
Brother in love. Right? I was like, you could do that. I said, but I care. Right. I was like, I don't want you hanging out with anybody.
That's all confidence.
Wow.
Right? Carl, you better come to Carl. You be here. That's like awesome. That's my brother-in-law. Do not steal that because you love stealing my stuff.
Yes, but I haven't. Because some things is just, you got to close the door and just keep pushing. Yeah. You don't have to revisit everything. You don't have to
it's not
be friends with everybody. It's not. You don't have to try to, make it, well, this is how strong I am. Exactly. I can go out
there's nothing to prove.
There's not. You don't have to prove nothing.
Exactly.
You don't even want to give. Sometimes the soul tie was just so deep and crazy. Mm-hmm. You don't even want to chance it.
Exactly.
You don't even want to chance going out to dinner. Next thing you know, they say a joke, and you remember a moment. You remember a sexual.
Right.
You don't even want. And don't let no drinks be involved.
You're like, that's why.
Right. You be forgetting. Like, well, just maybe. No, don't even get it's okay to leave things and still love them from afar.
Exactly.
You don't have to have bitterness in your heart, anything like that, but you don't have to stay connected to everything.
Exactly.
Okay? Especially when you're still in the process of healing. It's okay to move on.
And I think that's important. Everyone obviously is not going to be able to not be bitter, but I think you shouldn't allow any emotions of bitterness to control you.
Right.
You should absolutely, try to let that go and understand that also there's something, within them as well. It's not really necessarily you. I think that's important to know. So.
Right, because we always put it on ourselves, like, what's wrong with
Exactly. And it's not necessarily us.
Right.
It could be them.
So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I just want to encourage you guys to seek help in the natural and spiritual when you were trying to get over a soul tie. And just know even if I've never met you, I'm praying for you. I pray for anybody who listens to the content I put out there, because I want them to be positively affected and I want it to help them in some type of way. So know that I am praying for you, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I want you to succeed and to grow